happy moon day. I know that I did my little meditation last night, and have found myself with a little time today. So it was really interesting because I've been doing this lovely morning sadhana and evening meditation and relaxation. And so, yes, I got into lovely early night's sleep last night and had a beautiful night's sleep, wonderful dreams, and it was very fulfilling. And as I awoke, I came out, I was very awoken, and I recognized that the time was giving me long enough to do my Reiki healing before I went on to do the next hour of chanting, etc., as I have committed for the month of November, which is exciting, and grounding. And then I suddenly was aware of this sense of fear that suddenly started surrounding me, and it was all around. And I was like, oh, there's a fear here. That's interesting. And I was like, oh, and I started to feel into it. At which point I suddenly remembered, hang on, you can do Reiki. So I immediately went into Gasho hands, and my guide stepped right in front of me, literally sent me back and started dealing with that. And immediately the fear had gone. And I then was simply left with my own heart space, which is something that I was clearing yesterday and aware of when I was talking about all the souls who've left planet and the healing that we're each undergoing around that. And so, yes, there was some healing for me in that. So I recognized how much my guide had stepped in on this and taken off the fear so that I could deal with what I was dealing with. And that happens a lot. So I thought it was a good share point, because I'm sharing a little bit about the daily meditations and how that's supporting. But I really thought it was worth mentioning because it really reflects how often in the healing sessions I do on myself, my guides, if you like, the etheric energies that help support the work that I'm doing on myself and with Reiki, when we channel in that universal love that is a guided life force energy that comes in to support our own chi and our own prana and breath and the work we're doing down here. That energy, when it comes in, that the support that comes to us through the discarnate beings of light that come and help and work with us, sometimes that can be really helpful. And what they were showing today to me was that, there was fear in the collective conscience. Because what I was showing, the energy that was fearful, it was a lot around Halloween type fear. So the fear of ghosts and ghouls and all of the human creations that are around that we feed into very much. So it's like the other side. So you've got the all souls part, which is those who've passed over and the lessons. But then you've got the fear of what those can stand for, the fear of the unseen, fear of the witches and the wizards and the darkness, fear of darkness, really. And it was, but the thing is that this wasn't my fear. It was, and I'm getting so shame that even as I speak, this was a collective fear that was around, it's pervasive. So that was my reason for sharing, is that just to remind us all that even when we're doing our own healing and we're sitting through what we're sitting through, there is this other field of consciousness that can come into us to invade our fields whilst we're still doing our own work. So it's about when we remember to center, that's when, those celestial guides, whether you're aware of them or not, they can step in and step back the energy of the collective so that we can have our own orbit that protects us. So that was a share that I thought was worth bringing up. particularly on Moon Day, where we always share these meditations. And I like that. You know, the Moon Day, that's its traditional form of the word Monday. So it's a very special day for connecting with that feminine energy. And so the other part of that share was that, you know, in the collective, there is that fear. Now, why did I sense it on waking? Because it wasn't like I'd had difficult dreams, but I feel like the energy on my heart that I was clearing and working through it can attract that, because it in itself is coming up to light. So it is a shadow, if you like. It is something that we work on ourselves. And so in that space, as I'm doing that healing, you know, it was allowing some of the collective to form. So this is when we're doing Reiki, that's part of what Reiki helps with, both in client sessions myself. It helps us to step into the light, put a bit of a pause in, and push everything else away, so that we don't layer the collective conscience on top of something that we are already healing. So that was a clear message from Reiki today, and something that was guided to share. I can say one more thing on that, which is that as much as that is true, and that when we go into center, our guides, the Reiki energy forms this perfect, beautiful, impermeable light around us, so that we are safe to do our own work. That is true, and that was wonderful. I was like, oh yay, that's really good, because, you know, I can tell you also that when when we're doing our shadow work, and that is the bit where we sit in that pain, sometimes that can feel very lonely. You may not see your guides or feel that in there. And that is also a reminder that actually when we're doing, you know, there is sometimes we have to go in and do the dark side, and it has to feel like we're by ourselves, because we have to transcend that energy of feeling alone in there and find our way through it, even if that, whether that is by reaching out for help and support, or whether it is by eventually allowing that light to permeate just through our own persistence and resistance and resilience to find the threads of light within that space. So, you know, this is where that kind of the black and the white meet, the dark and the light, is that, you know, it's not that, you know, Reiki then takes us into this beautiful light bubble and all is well. It just helps us to get into our own energy field and heal what is on us. And often, we've got that celestial help and so much love and light within that space. But also part of healing our wounds can be feeling very alone in that space, trying to find our way out into the light again. But always that space, we are rewarded with something much richer, because of course, whenever we meet a challenge and move through it into clearer, calmer waters, we always gain strength and see more of what we are able to do and what we're able to transcend. So it's all beautiful work, even though some of it may feel all kinds of hard words, which I am not going to bring into here, because it's not a space, you know. We don't need to focus on the negative words. We can focus on the positive words. And when we're in the dark spaces, we may feel those things, but that's when we connect with the more positive versions. And they're for you to sit and know what yours are anyhow. So that was also a secondary part of that first share. And of course, then, you know, I was allowed, shall we say, I permitted myself to then receive some healing on that and recognize it was there before I was shown to get out, get my cup of tea, and then go and do my morning practice that I've committed to. So it was a beautiful entry into that. And then I had a wonderful hour sitting and working on myself in that energy and connecting in that highest vibration. So I am really enjoying doing that, ready to then meet clients. So it was a really good startup. So again, just that little reminder that I am doing this daily meditation for an hour on top of that spiritual work that I do on myself every day, in order to raise money for Scropton, the Riding for the Disabled charity. I'll put the link in the comments or in the session of this again. And it's wild the weather out there again today, so stirring up lots. But remember, just need to bring those hands to heart space that sets off that beautiful force field of energy around us and connects and opens our heart, and then just gently grounding that in now. And that is how we can center ourselves away from collective energy that may be fearful. So happy Monday. That was an extra little share today. Some insights from Reiki practice and human practice that's coming through. Happy Moon Day.